Hey there. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I'm Lacey Verbick, and I'm here with my favorite flamingo, Becky North. How you doing, Becky? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Lacey. I don't know about you, but it is cold here. We had a unseasonably amount of snow here in the greater St. Louis area, and we're expecting more later this week. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon from what the weatherman says, because it is so cold outside. How about you?
Oh, yeah. Are buried under about 11 inches of snow here in Indianapolis on Monday, which happened to be my beautiful daughter's 20th birthday. So shout out to Miss Neva Rose. She is 20 this
Happy
week. And
birthday.
yay! And my big boy is turning 16 next week. So it's a rich and snowy time around here, but we're expecting a little more snow on Friday as well. So I don't know. A little, some part of me loves the snow as long as I don't have to be out mucking around in it too much. How about you?
Right. Yes, I love the snow too. We had a moment where my kids were out playing in it with their dad. Excuse me. Um, my kids were out playing with it with their dad, and I was inside watching them because I didn't want to be out in the cold. And it was just so serene, like the big snowflakes falling and the quiet house and the
Mm.
it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yes, I love that. I feel like my holidays were a mixture of that kind of serenity and peace and just enjoying the white Christmas lights and cup of eggnog or maybe a glass of mulled wine, and then it was a mix of that in total and complete chaos.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and madness and stress and all of the things. But boy, it's been a nice break, but I gotta tell you, I'm ready to get back at it.
I am too, and I'm so glad that you said that, Lacey. I just want to say to all of our listeners out there, Happy New Year, and thank you, thank you so much for still showing up in our flock on social media over the last several weeks. And I hope that each of you really took the time to be intentional with your family and enjoy the serene moments and the ones of complete chaos. Maybe one day you'll be able to look back and laugh at, but. I would love to hear what your favorite part of the last 3 weeks was if you want to tell us.
Are you asking me or them? Me?
Both. I'm asking both.
Oh gosh, my favorite part. Oh, you surprised me. Probably with my daughter. Just last week for her birthday, we celebrated at a really neat place called Max and Tilly's here in Indianapolis. That's an English style pub, bar kind
Mm.
of place. And of course, she didn't drink. She's only 20, y'all. But we went and had traditional English fare, and that might seem a little strange a choice, but she is spending this coming spring semester in London at Harlexton College, which I'm really excited about for her. And she's very excited also. She's actually in the air on her way there right now as we're recording this episode. So pretty exciting. But we went to this London style restaurant, and then we wrapped up with a French patisserie for dessert and enjoyed this like massive, probably 13 or 14-inch round macaron cake. So like a French almond
Mm.
cookie, macarons, and it was filled with this like amazing cream and fresh fruit, and oh, it had raspberry, it had rose essence, and it had lychee, which is this Asian fruit that's just delightful. And so yeah, we sat around and ate like rich French people or something, and it
Mm.
was just a lovely, calm day of celebration and trying new things. So, how about you?
That is amazing and it sounds delicious. I think that my probably favorite memory of over the like my favorite moment over Christmas break. We have a tradition in our house. We bake what we call Santa cookies, and
Oh.
I have been making Santa cookies since I was a little girl. And it's something really special that I've got to carry on with my kids. And my dad shared the recipe with me, and we lost him several years ago. And this year, my two youngest actually took to the kitchen by themselves to make Santa
Oh.
cookies. And it was, while I wasn't far away and I was kind of talking them through it. They really did the work themselves, and it was a very bittersweet moment, but a sweet one nonetheless.
Oh, I love that so much. Seeing those traditions sort of, you know, seeing them kind of attach and, take on those traditions is really special. That's cool. I'm glad you got to see that. I'm a big traditions person, so I also have had those, those glimmers where you're like, oh, it's
Mhm.
gonna stick. They're gonna hold on to that, right? That's gonna be something late that they enjoy also later on in their adulthood. Yeah, that's amazing. Santa cookies, I love it. I saw pictures. You
Yes,
shared you shared a
I
picture with me.
did.
Oh, they're
I
adorable.
did.
And a sugar cookie, you cannot go wrong. That's
Yeah.
my
These
opinion.
ones aren't sugar. These ones are not sugar. They're
Oh, well,
chocolate.
which one did
They're
you
ch-
send me a picture of? They were sugar cookies, I think.
I think they were, yeah. But these
Oh.
were white chocolate. They're white chocolate chocolate chip, and sounds like an interesting combination, but they're
White
like seriously the
chocolate,
best.
chocolate
So
chip.
maybe we'll
Oh,
have to bake you some and pack them up for you.
oh my gosh. Love that. Yes, please. Anytime I can get cookies, I'm game. Well, I'm going to address really quickly the elephant in the studio here that we are showing up on camera. Hi,
Ba-dum-bum. Hello.
I'm Lacey. This is Becky.
I'm Becky.
Welcome to this Flocked Up Live. If you're brand new, welcome. We're so happy to have you join us. And this is as much for us as it is for you. And we're so glad you're here. And right now our format is a really fun version of Dear Abby, maybe something like that, right? A kind of question and answer that's for moms by moms, right? And we're all getting through this crazy flocked up life together. So if you're
Yes.
new, that's a little bit about what to expect, but we certainly encourage you to go back and check out, the episodes, older episodes, including the trailer and the special episode where we talk about the reason why flamingos are such a big part of this, why they're so special to us. And we're getting ready to kick it off here. So, in today's episode, we're diving into your questions. We have a question from Kelly M. She asks, winter always feels like a heavy season for me. I know I'm not alone in that. But how do you find inspiration and motivation when you have none? Oh, yeah. Kelly.
Oh, this is a good one. I want to be
Mhm.
like, if you can relate, please raise your hand, right?
We can
Like,
all relate.
whoo. I
Oh
don't
my
know that I
goodness.
ever felt that winter was a heavy season personally until I became a parent.
Yes, I agree. 100%. Say more about that, Becky.
Yeah, I think that um well, okay, can we just talk about the new year? Like coming into the new year, like that's really the start of winter and it feels heavy. It feels heavy for me. I know, and it's like, oh gosh, a new year and like as a mom, it's not just about, oh, what are my goals and aspirations for the year? Of course I have those, right? But it's also like, oh man, especially now that my kids are getting older, like how do I help support them in their goals and aspirations for the year? What are our family's goals? And how do I help hold my husband accountable for his goals? And like it becomes it sometimes feels like a buffet instead of a serving, right? Like it's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
buffet of all of the goodness. And sometimes, even when we're looking, at least even when I am looking at all of the goodness and not necessarily anything bumpy, right? But it still can make it hard to move because it is just a lot.
Hmm.
It is just a lot. So,
And
I would say
you can only eat so much. Becky, to continue your
exactly.
metaphor, you can only eat so much a day, right? You can only
Yes.
digest so fast all of the things that are before us in a new year. And I am 100% guilty of being that mom and that person who's like, we have to get it all done before the new year. I have to have my calendar book all ready to go and reset for the new year. I have to clean my desktop. I have to clear my downloads. I'm that person. But this year, I chose to kind of just take it one day at a time. Like I still did the
Mm.
same things, but I didn't get so worried and attached to the date. Like, oh, I have to have it done by December 31st, or oh, I have to have it done by, by New Year's Day, whatever. And I can say that I think it was a successful experiment for me
Mm.
to kind of release my grip on that a little bit and be like, okay, did the world fall down? Did anybody die? Like, are we okay? uh and turns out we're all okay. So I think, so yeah, it's something that sort of everybody feels in some way, shape, or form, right? I mean, you are certainly not
Mhm.
alone in that.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, like, this is what I decided this year, and, like, it really honestly came to me after meditation, which is why I know that it's right for me to do, right? Like, I was in a
Mm.
calm, peaceful state when I got what I'm gonna call the download that my year does not start over on January 1st, because that's not when I was born.
Ooh, I love that. Hmm.
And so I had this like, okay, here are the things that I want to be intentional about in the year of 2025. But really, if I'm going to make New Year's resolutions, I'm going to make them around my birthday. And I talked with my kids about that too. And they were like, yeah, that makes sense. Right. Because that's really when your year starts. That's when your year starts. And like, I think no matter what we're doing, whether we're setting goals or trying to find inspiration, like, my biggest piece of advice is you don't have to do it like everybody else,
Yes,
right? Like
girl.
you do what works for you. So let's say you want to eat healthy, but you're like, gosh, I hate breakfast foods. Well, guess what? You don't have to eat them. Eat chicken at breakfast. Like, right? Like you don't,
Yeah.
we are, we are people who are constantly learning and growing and evolving, and we do not fit in a mold other than ourself. We are the only
Hmm.
mold that we can fit in. And embrace that crazy, messy, beautiful thing, right? Because some days are going to feel divine and some days are going to feel like, you turn to the blender on with without the lid. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be crazy, but that's okay because that's part of it.
Yes. And you touched on something really cool there, Becky, about kind of everybody's sort of personal new year, right? With having corresponding with the month you're born in that. I think that's so interesting because I dabble in astrology. I just think it's interesting. And actually there's a lot of sort of uh context around that if you look at astrology and like your birth chart and where you were born and your rhythms and how what time you were born and all of that. There really is a bit of a science there. I guess it's metaphysics, if you will, but it's there's a bit of a science around that. And that's true, that we're all attached at birth to the season that we come into. So,
Mhm.
for example, you mentioned your birthday, which I know is in summer. My birthday is in January. So it makes sense that I am high energy and and I'm enthusiastic about the traditional what we know as New Year, here in the United States. It makes sense that I would be
Mhm.
at my highest energy level in January because I'm a January baby. I'm a
Yes.
winter's my season, right? But it isn't everybody's season. And Kelly, that's probably some of the nature of what you're feeling, is that winter may not be your season. It's just important to know, right? And it's helpful to know those things around what the seasons are about and also how you personally resonate with each season, right? For example, like winter, I read this beautiful book a few years ago and I think it's still in my bookshelf. It's called The Seasonal Soul, and I can't tell you the author's name right now, but we'll post it on social media. But this book is amazing, and it's broken down into the four seasons, and it talks about how what it's um how the four seasons feel to the
Mhm.
human experience, right? Like what the four seasons are about, their purpose,
Mhm.
and how they likely affect us. And you know me,
Mhm.
I'm woo. I like all that metaphysical stuff. So of course it resonates with me. It may not be for you, but when I read that book and it talked about the purpose of the seasons, one of the things it said that stood out to me, and I still think I carry it around with me to this day, is that winter, its purpose is rest. Its purpose is to go within to prepare for the rebirth that happens in the
Mhm.
spring, right? The whole purpose of winter is to stop, to shut down, to rest, to go within,
Mhm.
to withdraw, to introspect, to go, to stop doing all the things and give yourself a chance to, you know, recuperate and really be still and find, and allow that, right? And for, I
Mm.
mean, ask Becky 10 years ago, me, I wouldn't slow down long enough to even hear that. And now I understand, well, probably just age and a lot of therapy, okay? But I understand a lot better now that there's a reason for that. It's a part of the cycle. And
Mhm.
if we don't give that to ourselves, we are robbing ourselves of wellness,
Yes.
mentally and physically. So don't beat yourself up, Kelly, for saying that winter's hard. Maybe you're fighting against the nature of the season.
Mm.
Let yourself have it. Read about it. Check it out.
I am so glad you brought that up, Lacey, because I have in my notes here, I had like, excuse me, sorry, the cold, my allergies and stuff. But like, if you feel tired and restless, maybe it's because you are,
Ooh. Ding, ding,
right?
ding.
I think that sometimes we're like, oh, I don't understand what's wrong. I'm so tired. I just can't. I feel unmotivated. And it's because what we need is rest.
Yes.
You need rest. If you listen to like literally any doctor or honestly almost any health coach or anything, they're going to say
Mm-hmm.
like one of the most important things that you do is like your sleep, right? But it's not
Yep.
necessarily about whether or not you're getting 10 hours of sleep at night. It's about like, are you finding time to rest, right? And what does that look
Yes.
like for you? Because I know maybe not everybody is like this, but I know like my head hits that pillow and it's not like, whoo, I'm out, right? I am thinking, oh my gosh, here's what I have to do tomorrow. Here's what I didn't get done today. Here's
Mm-hmm.
all of this going on, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I get sleep, right? But I find my rest and my recharge through meditation, through journaling, through
Yes.
prayer. I find it by making, 15 minutes a day to read a book that I want to read. And maybe that's personal development, maybe it's not. And it doesn't matter, right? Like it's something that I'm doing for me. So sometimes we look at that and we say, oh, I'm not motivated when really, you probably are. What you need is rest.
Mm-hmm.
And there
And
is no
guess
shame
what?
in that.
Yes, 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 yes. And pushing yourself to earn rest is not kind. Don't do that.
Hmm.
I used to
Yep.
do that all the time. Oh, I'm going to get to I'm going to get these four things done and then I can rest. No, rest now. Those things will be
Hmm.
there, right? Like it's a choice that only you can make for you.
Hmm.
Nobody else is going to make it.
Yep.
Your kids are not going to stop asking you for shit. Your husband's not going to quit, you know, causing issues, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen. You have to say yes to you.
Hmm. And
And
set boundaries. Set boundaries, please. Please set the boundaries. Like, like,
we're going to regret
sorry.
going on YouTube, Becky, because I'm sure we went ugly right there on camera.
I am certain that we did. But listen, it is okay. Even when my kids were little, I used to do this thing where they would like ask a question and then respond. I haven't done this in a while with them, actually. I feel like maybe I need to go back to it. But um, where they would ask a question and I would answer, and then 5 minutes later they'd ask the question again, like,
Yeah.
"Can I have
Oh,
a
yeah.
sucker?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, we can't have a sucker right now. Maybe we can have a sucker XYZ." And then 5 minutes later, they're like, "Well, can I have a sucker now?" And so instead of falling into the pit of that, my boundary with them was asked and answered.
Mm.
You've already asked that question and I've already answered it. Asked and answered,
Yep.
right? If you have family members or friends or whatever, like, okay, I'm just going to say it because it came to me and this is going to be controversial.
Uh-oh.
But,
Here it comes.
mama, if you feel like a doormat, if you feel like you are a doormat, it is because you are allowing yourself to be.
Uh-oh.
And
Mm-hmm.
I know that that hurts because it like hurts me to say it out loud. Like I'm like, "Cool, that was a punch in my own gut." Right? But if you feel like people are walking all over you, you are allowing that. Like the only way to change something is to do something different. So if people are showing up a certain way in your life and you are not speaking up for yourself, nobody else is going to.
Mm-hmm.
Setting boundaries does not make you a bad person. Setting boundaries does not make you a bad daughter, a bad friend, a bad sister, a bad aunt, a bad dog mom, a bad whatever it is, right? Like it doesn't do it. To say I'm not going to work at home at 9 p.m. when I'm not getting paid for it does not make you a bad person, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. It doesn't. So set the boundaries. Like don't be afraid to say to your kids, asked and answered. Don't be afraid to say to your husband, "Hey, I said I needed 10 minutes. I'm going to need you to make sure you handle this." You know, don't be
Yep.
afraid to say to your friends, like, "No, I just can't do that." Because no is also an answer. It doesn't always have to be yes.
Mm-hmm. So good. And it relates back to Kelly's question a little bit here, where she's talking about motivation. Where do you find the motivation when you have none? Well, get motivated to set some boundaries. If
Mm-hmm.
other people are making you miserable, and winter's hard because of impacts outside of your control, make your focus your energy during this season of quiet and maybe challenging challenge for you. Focus that energy on getting really clear on your boundaries, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
see how that changes this year, right? See
Yep.
how applying those boundaries changes the way you feel about this season. It may or may
Yes.
not, right? It
May
may
not.
not, but what could it hurt? Right. And I mean, I think we should maybe go back a step a little bit, Becky, too. Like, why does it feel heavy? Right. I mean, I think there's a
Mm.
multitude of reasons why winter can feel heavy. We've touched on sort of the energy and the seasonality of it, right? But there's also the holidays, there's also New Year's. It's those things can be difficult when we've lost loved ones, and you know a number of things, right? But
Mm-hmm.
why? Maybe sit with why is it heavy? Why is it a difficult season, right? And then maybe write that out. It's difficult for me because, or I find winter hard because of XYZ things, right? I've talked a million times about journaling and the power of that and gratitude and all the things, and I'm not going to go into that, but I find that sometimes it just needs to come up and out. Sometimes the heaviness just can be expressed through some channel, like writing, or speaking with a friend, or get on your phone and talk it out, record a voice memo, right? I mean, I think there's a million
Mm-hmm.
ways that it can come up and out. But Becky, you can even speak more to this with your training in NLP and all the things that you've learned. But like, there's value in expression, uh in lightening the load,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that load is.
Yep. Well, and I think, Lacey, I'm so glad that you said that. Like, I think that, like you said, it can be hard for an abundance of reasons,
Mhm.
a million reasons why it can be hard. And I don't, I'm not going to try to take that away because hard is not a bad thing. And like awareness, like you were saying, brings so much. So, like, with that, I would say for me this year, what I focused on, because it has felt like a heavy season. Like December was crazy, and I like we're rolling into January with a huge snowstorm, and like I
Mm-hmm.
there's like no routine right now, and like it definitely feels like a blender with the lid off day, right? It really does, and and that's okay. Like to say it's okay that it's hard right now. I'm gonna find the awareness for why it's hard, right? And then I can start to change that if I feel led, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for me this year at the beginning of the year, when I had all of those things about like, well, my new year doesn't start till my birthday and all of that, like, one of the things that I really got to sit with was like, how do I want to show up in the world? Who do I want to be? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then I don't have to have all of the goals and I don't have to do all the things and I don't even have to have a lot of inspiration or motivation. I can just sit with the moment and say, am I showing up as who I want to be? I made a declaration of who I want to be this year, and are my actions aligned to that? And if not, then I realign,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Yes.
you have to have awareness. So you can be having a hard day, a hard week, a hard month, a hard year, right? But like, are your actions aligning with who you want to be?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Everybody get your notepads out. Becky's on a roll.
I don't know about that. Listen, we make silly decisions. I made the silliest decision, the craziest one. And I want to say, whew. So last year in like May, right, in the summer, when it didn't feel heavy and life was great, right? Life is still great. I just want to be clear. But and our Girl Scout troop leader was like, "Who wants to lead cookies next year?" And me and my daughter's best friend's mom were like, "We will."
Uh
Guys,
oh.
there is so much to Girl Scout troop cookies. It's so big. It's so much bigger than I could have imagined in that moment. And like the amount of like classes and trainings that I've had to watch and trying
Oh
to
no.
figure out their systems. And listen, like I work in businesses where we help to build process, right? Like I love to build process, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is not how I would have done it, which is hard, right? Because I just want to do everything the way that I would do it. And I made that decision and it was silly, but you know what? I'll still probably be the cookie troop leader next year. You know why? Because I will probably love it by the end because I'll find the glimmers in it. I'll find the joy and I won't have to go through and do all that training again. And like I'll probably still do it. So sometimes we say yes and then we're in it and we're like, "Oh my gosh." And then we come out the other side and we're like, "Hey, that actually really wasn't that bad."
Well, I have my fingers crossed for you that
Yeah.
you will feel that way next year. But you know what? You know what, Becky? You know what you're gonna do? You're gonna be the best damn cookie mom there ever was
Yeah.
because that's who you are, right? Because you will give, you will do your very best with what you have from where you are. And
Mhm.
that is all that is required and all that can be asked of any of us.
Yes.
True.
And do you know what inspires me about that is that my daughter sits at Cookie Troop Cookie Rally, which was basically like a prep rally,
Yeah.
pep
Uh,
pep rally. There we go.
a
For
pep
like
ra-
a pep rally for Girl Scout cookies. And like, listen, who doesn't love a Girl Scout cookie, right? Like, but like all of the cool things that she learns, but when she's like, I'm gonna sell 2,000 boxes, which is a lot of cookies for the record. And I don't know if she'll actually sell 2,000 boxes, but she is so excited about it. And
Yep.
she's like, I'm going to do it. And here's my plan. And here's that. And that was all her. That was all her.
Mm,
She
mhm.
came to me and said after that rally, like, this is what I'm going to do. This is where we're going to go door to door. This is how we're going to do it. Like, she has the plan. And
Wow.
yeah,
Well,
it's
I
just
believe
pretty
she will
amazing.
do it. I
Yeah.
believe she will. Well, and I'll be over here buying some cookies on the side too, so don't worry about
Yeah.
that.
If anybody else wants to, just let me know.
Got to get that shameless little plug in there. Awesome. You know what? I was just gonna I had two more quick little points that for Kelly before we close up, but one is that get a witness. And witness sounds is a funny word, but I learned that from a coach many years ago, and it just really stuck. It's that people can, there's a difference between talking with someone and just having a general conversation with an acquaintance or a coworker and being witnessed by someone. There's a
Mhm.
distinction there. It's not the same thing. And when I get to feeling really heavy, when I get to feeling really alone, when I get to feeling like, oh God, I just want to hide under my covers on my bed and not see anyone for days, which I do get there sometimes. When when I get there, I found that I'm really lifted by a witness, by just being able to say to someone, "Hey, would you be willing to listen to me for a few minutes? I just need to get some things up and out." And
Mhm.
and sometimes you don't even have to preface it. Sometimes you can just roll into a conversation and ultimately you end up being witnessed and you didn't even ask for it, right? And you'll know when that happens, when it's with someone you trust and it just feels natural, right? Just roll with
Mhm.
it. But like last week, for example, I was having a hard week last week, and said to I said to one of my dear friends that I hadn't talked to in a long time, who actually lives in Missouri, near you, Becky. Her name is Shannon, and I got to talking to her, and I actually said, would you be willing to witness me? I just need to get some things out, and she was like, absolutely. She's a trusted friend, known her for 20 plus years. And then I actually had the other experience that same week when I went to my hairstylist, who I love, has also been in my life like 20 plus years. Love you, Colleen, if you're listening. And she witnessed me without me asking, and I
Mhm.
left there feeling so supported, so seen, and so supported. And it just, it was the lift. It was a lift that I needed, just to be witnessed. And
Mhm.
I just found it so elevating in a week where I was really stressed, and I was real unhappy and feeling like
Mhm.
there wasn't good light at the end of the tunnel. It was one of those. And so I would encourage you to, find a witness.
Yes.
I'm sure you have those people in your life. You just haven't asked, maybe.
That's right. That's right. So well, I have a couple things to this. I'll be quick though. But the first thing is I have that song in my head now. Like, can I get a witness? Like, anyways. But to the opposite of that, don't be afraid to witness somebody, whether or not they ask for it.
Yes.
Right? Like, man, when I have somebody come in, whether it's on a phone call or a text message or whatever, and they're like, hey, I noticed XYZ and I see you.
Hmm.
I see you and I see blah, 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 right? Whatever that is. Like, man, that's really powerful. I try really hard to do that with people in my life because I realized how good that made me feel, right? When people did it
Yes.
to me. So I'm like, oh, I want to share this feeling. So, like, hey, mama, like, Kelly, I know, I see that it's heavy. And I see that you're asking, like, how do we find inspiration and how do we find motivation? And you know what? You reached out your hand and you asked for help. And sometimes
Hmm.
that's really hard to do. And I see you.
Hmm.
I see
Yes.
you, right?
Hmm.
Um, or the stranger in the grocery store who's maybe toddler is like screaming and they're trying to just buy groceries for their family and they're just in a really hard part of life, right? Like I have no joke gone up to people and been like, I know that this is a really hard moment, but you're doing a really great job.
Yep.
Random
Yep.
person I don't know. And I don't need a response. I don't need a reply. I don't need any of that, right? Like, and
Mhm.
do you know what happens in turn? You fill your cup also.
Yes. Way to witness, Becky. I'm proud of you. That's amazing.
Well, thanks.
Of course, you're a wonderful, well, you're my favorite witness.
Well,
But
thank you.
you're not always available. So sometimes I got to talk to my hairstylist. Okay. No, but seriously though, uh, I always leave those conversations inspired. Your one
Hmm.
of your keywords here in your question is inspiration. I almost always can glean something inspiring from the conversation that I asked for to support myself. You know what I mean? That I ask for to support me. Like almost always, it's kind of like the value of therapy and counseling as well. You very often give yourself the answer, right? So sometimes in
Hmm.
those conversations where you're searching for support and feeling lost and not sure what the answer is, a lot of times that the inspiration or the solution to your problem will come just from that.
Yes.
Like it's amazing how often that happens to me. And and you one more thing before so I'll don't drag on too long here, but one other thing I find that like when I get to that like point of what I'm going to call seasonal depression or like the winter lows or I don't know whatever, there's a million terms for it, but when I get to that point, I find that I have to like really narrow my focus and attention in on something that is natural and miraculous. So let me give you an example. Well, I think house plants. I think I'm a crazy plant lady. I love plants, in case you don't know that about me. Um and I find that I love to prune and clean and wipe down and water and trim and like watch my plants when I get feeling low in the winter, because they move and they're alive and they respond to the sun, and they they have cycles, right? And they just they're they they be better than any
Hmm.
being on the planet. I think trees and plants are fascinating in that sense, that they're always being. They are they are, I don't know, they're like the prime example of beingness, right? And so they remind me when I see them, them surge from being fertilized, when I see them like perk up from having been underwatered, last week or whatever, when I see the movement and the subtle changes in the life that's in them, it reminds me of my sensitivity. It reminds me of my vitality. It reminds me of my essence, right?
Hmm.
Like what I'm made of and how deeply connected we are to source, God, Mother Earth, whatever you want to say, right? And so it's like I'm inspired by the plants that are around me, and it gives me something to pour into, to focus on,
Hmm.
to love, to you know yeah, to attend to. And I probably also, this whole plant fascination has a lot to do with the stage of life I'm in, right? My kids are flying the nest. My kids are flown the coop. They're moving on, right? One of just my daughters so far. But I mean, I'm in a household with older kids that don't need me. Okay. Those of you with little kids, maybe a plant is one more thing to care for, and that would be an unwanted accessory in your home. But for me, at the age and stage I'm at, it's something that really kind of tides me over during the winter season and gives me a chance to follow their lead and just be a little bit more.
I love that you said that because the only thing that I still had on my list was um really talking about like when things feel heavy, it's really easy to look around and see all of the things that are heavy or maybe what we would classify as not so
Yes.
good, right?
Yes.
But like the joy is there.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to look for it. Like we have to be willing to look for it. So I know we've talked about glimmers before, those little things that happen, like your plants. Like Lacey has sent me a video once of like her plants literally dancing. Like it was
Yeah.
so cool,
Yeah.
right? And that was a glimmer, right? Like this beautiful thing that you just noticed, not really for any purpose, that
Mhm.
just kind of happened in the moment, right? And the more you start to pay attention to those and
Yes.
like share them with us, share them with your
Yes.
friends, share the like write them down in your journal, whatever you need to do, because you get what you focus on. And the more you pay attention to those, like you'll slowly be able to pull more and more and more joy into your life, right? Like
Yes.
it is there. There is as much, in fact, I'm going to say there is more joy in the world than there is darkness. We just have to be willing to grab for it.
Mm. Yes. Oh, mic drop. Love it.
Yeah, we
Love
have
it.
to be willing to grab for it. And you are worth grabbing for it, right? And you don't have to grab for something a million miles away, right? Like it can be like honestly, my very, very favorite joy in the entire world is my bedroom, like walks out into the kitchen. Okay. That's not the joy because it's almost always a mess. But when I walk out and the kitchen's clean, I am like, "Ah!" Like it is the best moment, right? And it's not like my house is not filthy, right? It is lived in. I have 3 kids, right? But like when I walk out and the kitchen is clean, I just feel this whew over
Mm.
all of me. The whole rest of the house,
Mm.
a bomb could have gone off. But if the kitchen's clean, I'm okay, right? So like I would say along Kelly, along with the asking like why does it feel hard? Ask the question, what could make it feel lighter and what brings me joy?
Mm. Mhm. Beautiful. We can just wrap it up, Becky. That was amazing. Love it.
Well, thanks.
Love it. Wow.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for this amazing question and just bringing it in. It's such a beautiful time of the year for us to really talk about that. And no, like I said before, we see you. We see you. We really do. And we're cheering you on, and not just Kelly, but anybody else out there listening that may be feeling this. And yeah, we're excited to be here with you guys and excited to be trying new things with you. And we look forward to seeing more of you in the new year.
Let us know what you think of us showing up on YouTube, Kay.
Okay, talk
should
to you later.
should Okay, bye. Until next time.
Sorry.